everyone, I'm here at my bench, gonna work on some silver jewelry today, and I figured I'd sit on here and make a YouTube because I've never made one before. So today we're working on a little Royston turquoise lariat necklace, and then I'll be working on a little heart necklace out of this. This is weird filming sideways. I keep showing it over here. Yeah, so this is gonna be like a little Kingman heart necklace. And then I'm also working on a little Sonoran gold cluster ring for a lady. So yeah, just stay tuned and I'll show y'all throughout the whole process. I was trying to give y'all a little bit of a close-up version of a top view on showing this, but I just don't really have a good way to set my phone up and try to work around it. So anyway, on some of these smaller stones, I've got a cat attacking me, just a second. Anyway, on some of these tiny stones like this, you kind of have to use like your rounding pliers to like get the bezel pre-shaped before you go and just start bending them around it, just because they're so tiny and hard to work with. So that's what I'm doing here, is just pre-bending and then shaping around. And then once we get done with this process, we will start soldering the bezel creases together to make a closed bezel. Okay, so we got 2 of the tiny ones done, 3 of the big ones done, and we got 2 small ones to go. Okay, I'm back and I finished cutting my bezels and shaping them and everything. So, down here I've got my Fordham, which just kind of cleans up the silver and everything. And I'm gonna clean these bezels. So silver does not solder together very well if it's not clean. So like you don't want any oily residue off your hands or anything. So I'm gonna just bend these to where this crease is pretty well together. And then I'm gonna take my Fordham and I'm gonna clean the inside of this, because this is where I'm gonna put flux, and then I'm gonna set my solder. And then here in a second I'll show you how I'm gonna solder them together. So right now I'm pretty much just cleaning the insides of the bezels to make sure that they're gonna solder together pretty good. These tiny ones are going to be a little bit harder to get in there. So when I started, I didn't really have any of the tools and stuff yet. And so I started out smithing, and I was using steel wool and fingernail files of like each grit, because the girl that taught me helped me get going with some of the basics, and just basically showed me that, like, you know, you can get started without having all of the fancy tools for it and dropping so much money on like all that. So it's kind of nice if you're looking into like starting on like doing some silversmithing. You don't have to buy all of the fancy tools until you're ready. So those are clean, and we are gonna get them set up and move on to the soldering process. Okay, bezels are shaped. And then I'm just going to use this handy flux and cover all of my, oh, what's the word? I'm having a hard time with words lately. My cuts, where I'm fixing to solder. I'm just going to brush some of this in there on the inside. I've already taken my pliers off camera. I've taken my pliers and I've lined up all of my cracks. So now I'm just putting flux in here, and then we're gonna stick some solder in there and get to soldering. These tiny ones can be hard. I switched my torch tip the other day to a smaller tip because I was just melting so many of them. So it should go better with a smaller torch tip. Okay, so if you're just learning on solder, there is hard solder medium, easy, and extra easy, and then there may be more that I don't know about. But that's what I use, and I use sheet solder, so I cut it up into these tiny chips and just keep it in these little canisters. But when you're working on a project, so you're going to do your bezels first, and then your bezel is going to go to your backing, which is like just sheet metal. And then you're going to do all of your decorative stuff, and then say if you're making a ring, you're going to put your ring band on last. So they flow, melt, whatever, at different temperatures. Hard is going to be like obviously the hardest. So that's where you want this seam to be. And then I also use it to put my bezel to my backing. And then the more steps throughout the process, you're going to want to like step down on your solder hardness. That way, so you're not like melting your bezel seam while you're trying to like add on your last detail balls or like that kind of thing. So I try to never get down to like the extra easy solder, which all looks the same obviously, but I try to never get down to my extra easy early on in my project, because say if someone ever like breaks their earring or breaks whatever, for repairs, it's nice to be able to know that like I can still use extra easy and not just go melting all the rest of the stuff off and like have more of an issue than I need. So anyway, that's why we're going to start with hard solder. My tweezers I've seen better days, that's for sure. Okay, so on some of these, like they have a hard time, they have a hard time standing up just because they're so big, but I try to stand them up like this with the seam on the bottom. That way, I don't know, that's how I like to do it. But sometimes they don't stand up great. So on some of these I can just do them how they sit. So I'm going to do these big ones first, and then I'll move on to the small ones. Okay, got our solder placed on there. Now, got my torch, and I just use an acetylene torch. And we're going to keep our flame moving. You're going to notice that the flux will like bubble up. And you're pretty much going to wait for it to get past the bubbly stage, and then it like turns to like glass or whatever. Basically it becomes clear, and that's when it's about to flow usually. Just going to heat my piece, try to keep a lot of the heat on the seam. And I may try to show y'all a close-up video of this on the next one so y'all can kind of see what it looks like. I have to move it over a little bit sometimes. I may have to move to my bigger torch or turn my gas up for some of these big ones. Oh, there we go. Okay. So that one is together. And I'm just going to throw it over here in my pickle pot, and then I'll try to show y'all a better view of this next one. That fly's about to get torched. Okay, so right here is my crack, you can see it, and there's my solder chip. Hopefully it stays standing up, or I'm gonna have to set y'all down to use my tweezers. Oh, you see it kind of draw up to the metal? And there we go. Did you watch it flow? There you have it. I got my bezels pickled and then rinsed them real quick. And now we are going to work on shaping them right back around our stones so we can move on to the next step of laying everything out on our sheet. So most of these fit that pretty dang good, but it's when you have like funky shapes or that kind of thing that you pretty much have to do a lot of shaping, or like these tiny ones. I'll have to re-round out so I can get them around their stones. But yeah, for the most part, it's pretty easy, especially if they're made the right size. We're back, and I have worked on a little bit of the design off camera just because it's easier. And we're doing some bead trim and some little teardrops, and then working on this heart necklace. And then we're gonna work on cutting out this brand. So I'm just gonna use my little saw over here. And you're always gonna wanna make sure that like your saw blade is tight. And then I just have an old candle for wax because it just helps like glide through the silver better. I think they actually make something that you can buy at the jewelry supply place, but an old candle works just fine. So we're gonna work on, whoa, where's my camera at again? We're gonna work on cutting this out, and it is gonna be placed on this side of the heart. So when you're gonna cut, you're always gonna start with your blade kind of like leaning forward. I don't know if you can see from there. And then as you bite into the metal, then you're gonna straighten it up and go more straight up and down. I'm gonna need to cut this off. These blades are so very fragile. Let me see if I can back this out of here without breaking it, hopefully. Yep. Okay, and then I'm just gonna cut this off right here because my saw wouldn't fit around all of this to be able to get around it on all the curves. So I'm just gonna put it right back in the crevice and start where it was. If I had to pick a least favorite part about smithing, it would be sawing out intricate details, honestly. I have not really mastered it. Well, it is a whole nother day, a whole lot of hours later, and I just finished all those pieces and totally forgot to finish filming every step of the process for you guys. So instead of just leaving y'all totally hanging, I figured I would at least show y'all what they turned out to be. So I made this little lariat for a girl. These stones are the ones, I can't remember if I told y'all, but she actually sent these in to me, and they used to be some studs that broke. Then we got in a little adjustable Sonoran gold cluster ring. And then, here's what that heart turned out to be, with that brand that I made. So, anywho, I apologize again for forgetting to film the rest of it. Stay tuned, and maybe I'll make another one and actually remember. So, thanks for watching.